Hare Krishna, and we're back with Kṛṣṇa, the Reservoir of Pleasure. By His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, page number 25, chapter number 3, The Perfect Person. Kṛṣṇa consciousness is a very important movement meant to bring all living entities back to their original consciousness. Just as there are many mental hospitals like Bellevue established for the purpose of bringing a crazy man back to his original consciousness. Similarly, the purpose of the Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement is to bring all crazy men back to their original consciousness. Anyone who is not Kṛṣṇa conscious may be understood to be more or less crazy. There was a murder case in India in which a murderer pleaded that he had become mad and therefore did not know what he did. So, in order to test him to see whether he was actually a lunatic at that time, the expert civil psychiatrist was brought to examine him. The doctor gave his opinion, saying that he had studied many cases and that all the patients with whom he had come in contact were more or less crazy. And the court could excuse him on those grounds if it desired. In a Bengali poem, a great Vaishnava poet has written, quote, "When a man becomes haunted by ghosts, he speaks only nonsense. Similarly, anyone who is under the influence of the material nature is haunted, and whatever he speaks is nonsense." Unquote. Although one is a great philosopher or a great scientist, if he is haunted by the ghost of Maya, illusion, whatever he theorizes and whatever he speaks is more or less nonsense. The intent of the Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement is to bring such a man back to his original consciousness, which is Kṛṣṇa consciousness, clear consciousness. When water falls from the clouds, it is like distilled water without contamination. But as soon as it touches the ground, it becomes muddy and colored. Similarly, we are spirit soul, part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa. Therefore, our original constitutional position is as pure as God's. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, "Mamaivamsho jivaloke." The living entities are part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa. Gita 15.7. As a fragment of gold is gold, so we are minute particles of God's body, and are therefore qualitatively as good as God. The chemical composition, in quotes, of God's body and our body, not the material body, but our spiritual body, is the same, and thus ours is as good as God's, for the chemical composition is one. But as rainwater falls down on the ground, so we come in contact with this material world, the material nature, which is manipulated by the material energy of Kṛṣṇa. When we speak of nature, it must be inquired, whose nature? God's nature. Nature is not active independently. Such a concept is foolish. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that material nature is not independent. A foolish man sees a machine and thinks that it is working automatically, but actually it is not. There is a driver. Although we sometimes cannot see the driver behind the machine due to our defective vision. There are electronic machines working very wonderfully, but behind the electronics there must be a scientist who pushes the button. This is a very simple to understand. This is a very simple example. This is very simple to understand. Since a machine is matter, it cannot work on its own accord, but must work under spiritual direction. A tape recorder works, but it works under the direction of a living entity, a human being. The machine is complete, but unless it is manipulated by a spirit soul, it cannot work. Similarly, we should take it for granted that the cosmic manifestation of nature is a great machine, but that behind this material nature there is God, Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa says in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya dyakshena prakriti suyate sarcharacharan. I love this verse. Maya dyakshena prakriti suyate sarcharacharan. Hetu nanyena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. Quote, all of material nature is acting under my direction and superintendence. Unquote. Gita 9.10. There are two kinds of entities, the moving, such as human beings, animals, ants, and the non-moving, such as trees. Kṛṣṇa says that material nature, which controls both kinds of entities, is acting under his direction. There is a supreme control. Supreme control. Modern civilization does not understand this due to a lack of knowledge. So our Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement is trying to enlighten people. People are all crazy because they are conducted by the influence of the three modes of material nature. They're not in their normal condition. This is very important to understand. There are so many universities, especially in the United States, and so many departments of knowledge. Why aren't they discussing these points? Where is the department for this knowledge? In 1968, when I went to Boston, I was invited to speak at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. My first question was, where is the technological department which is investigating the difference between a dead man, and a living man? When a man dies, something is lost. Where's the technology to replace it? Why do the scientists not try for it? Because this is a very difficult subject. They set it aside. They are busily engaged in the technology of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This is animal technology. Animals are also trying their best to eat nicely, to have nice sex life, to sleep, and to defend. What is the difference between man's knowledge and the animal's knowledge? Man's knowledge should be developed to explore the technology that deals with the difference between a living man and a dead man, a living body and a dead body. That spiritual knowledge was taught by Kṛṣṇa in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna was talking to Kṛṣṇa as a friend. Of course, whatever he was saying was right, but it was right only to a certain point. Beyond that point, there are other subject matters of knowledge, which are called adhokshaja, because our direct perception of material knowledge fails to approach them. We have many wonderful microscopes to see what we cannot see with our limited vision, but there is no microscope that can show us the soul within the body. But nevertheless, the soul is there. The Bhagavad Gita informs us that within the body there is a proprietor. I am the proprietor of my body, and others are the proprietors of their bodies. I say my hand. I don't say I hand. Therefore, since it is my hand, I am different from this hand. When I say my book, this indicates that the book is different from me. Similarly, it is my table, my eye, my leg, my this, my that, but where am I? Searching out the answer to this question is meditation. One asks, where am I? What am I? We cannot search out the answers to such questions by material effort. Therefore, all the universities are setting them aside. It is a very difficult subject. Engineers are very proud of creating the horseless carriage. Formerly, horses were drawing carriages, but now there are cars. So the scientists are very proud. We have invented horseless carriages and wingless birds, they say. They can invent imitation wings for the airplane, but when they invent a soulless body, then they will deserve credit. Such an invention cannot be, because no machine can work without a soul. Even computers need trained men to handle them. Similarly, we should understand that this great machine, known as the cosmic manifestation or material nature, is manipulated by a supreme spirit. That is Kṛṣṇa. Scientists are searching for the ultimate cause or the ultimate controller of this material nature, and are putting forth different theories and propositions, but our means of knowledge is very easy and perfect, because we are hearing from the perfect person, Kṛṣṇa. Because Kṛṣṇa says so. Because Kṛṣṇa says so, we immediately know that the cosmic machine, of which the earth is a part, is working so nicely and wonderfully, because behind this machine is a driver, Kṛṣṇa. Exactly as being behind any machine, there is a machine driver. Behind this big machine of material nature, there is Kṛṣṇa. Our process of knowledge is very easy. Kṛṣṇa's book, the Bhagavad Gita, is the book of knowledge that is given by a perfect person. One may argue that although we have accepted him as a perfect person, others do not. But he is the perfect person on the evidence of many authorities. It is not by our whims that we accept Kṛṣṇa as perfect. No. There are many Vedic authorities, like Vyasadeva, the author of all Vedic literature. The treasure house of knowledge is contained in the Vedas, and their author, Vyasadeva, accepts Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Vyasadeva's spiritual master, Brahma, accepts Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Person. Brahma says, Ishvarah Paramah Kṛṣṇa. Quote, the Supreme Controller is Kṛṣṇa. No one can say that he is without a controller. That is not possible. Everyone, no matter how big an officer he is, has a controller over his head. But Kṛṣṇa has no controller. Therefore, he is God. He is the controller of everyone, but he has no controller. There are many so-called gods nowadays. Gods have become very cheap. They are especially imported from India. People in other countries are fortunate that gods are not manufactured there. But in India, gods are manufactured practically every day. One of my disciples recently told me that a god was coming to Los Angeles and that people were requested to receive him. Kṛṣṇa is not that kind of god. I mentioned in my introduction to Kṛṣṇa book that Kṛṣṇa is not the type of god manufactured in a mystic factory. No, he is God. He was not made God, but he is God. Behind the gigantic material nature, the cosmic manifestation, there is God, Kṛṣṇa. And he is accepted by all authorities. We must accept that knowledge which is accepted by authorities. For education, we go to a teacher or to a school or learn from our father and mother. They are all authorities, and our nature is to learn from them. In our childhood, we asked, "Father, what is this?" Father would say, "This is a pen. These are spectacles," or "This is a table." So a child learns from his father and mother. This is a table, these are spectacles, this is a pen, this is my sister, this is my brother, etc. Similarly, if we get information from an authority, and if the authority is not a cheater, then our knowledge is perfect. Haribo! The father and the mother never cheat when the son inquires from them, and they give exact and correct information. If we get the right information from the right person, that is perfect knowledge. If we want to reach the conclusion by speculation, that is imperfect. The inductive process will never become perfect. It will always remain imperfect. Since we get information from the perfect person, Kṛṣṇa, whatever we speak is perfect. I don't say anything which is not spoken by Kṛṣṇa or by authorities who have accepted Kṛṣṇa. This is called disciplic succession. That is Kṛṣṇa consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Kṛṣṇa recommends this process of knowledge. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduh. Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Formerly, knowledge was passed down by great saintly kings who were the authorities. Nowadays, the government or president is the authority. Formerly, however, those authorities or kings were rishis, great, learned scholars and devotees, not ordinary men. That system of government was very nice. One talented and well-trained person, as the head of the government, could very peacefully execute the governmental functions. There are many instances in Vedic civilization of the perfection of such kings. Dhruva Maharaj is such an example. He went to the forest to search out God, and by practice of severe penance and austerities, he found God within 6 months. How? He was a 5-year-old boy, a king's son with a very delicate body, but according to the direction of his spiritual master, Narada, he went alone to the forest. The first month there, he simply ate some fruits and vegetables every 3 days. For the next 3 months, he drank a little water every 6 days. For the next month, he would inhale some air every 12 days. For 6 whole months, he stood on one leg and executed these austerities, and at the end of 6 months, God became manifest before him, eye to eye. If we practice austerities, it will be possible for us to also see God eye to eye. This is the perfection of life. The Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement is based on austerity, but it is not very difficult. We recommend that our students not have illicit sex. We don't stop sex, but we regulate it. We don't stop eating, but we regulate it. We eat Kṛṣṇa prasad, food first offered to Kṛṣṇa. We don't say no eating, but no meat eating. What is the difficulty? Kṛṣṇa prasad is made of many varieties of nicely cooked fruits and vegetables, so there's no difficulty. No illicit sex means don't be like cats and dogs. Be married and have one wife or one husband and be satisfied. We must regulate ourselves and must undergo austerities, although we cannot undergo such severe types of austerity as Dhruva Maharaj. In these days, it is impossible to imitate Dhruva Maharaj, but the method we are prescribing is possible. If one takes to these principles, he will make advancement in spiritual consciousness, Kṛṣṇa consciousness. As one makes advancement in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, he becomes perfect in knowledge. What is the use of becoming a scientist or a philosopher who cannot say what his next life will be? These students of Kṛṣṇa consciousness can very easily say what their next life is, what God is, what we are, and what our relationship with God is. Their knowledge is perfect because they are reading perfect books of knowledge, such as the Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhagavatam. This is our process. It is very easy, and anyone can adopt it and make his life perfect. If someone says, "I'm not educated, I cannot read books," still, there is the possibility that he can perfect his life. He can simply chant Hare Krishna. Kṛṣṇa has given us a tongue and 2 ears. And we may be surprised to know that Kṛṣṇa is realized through the tongue, not through the eyes. After the tongue, the other senses follow, but the tongue is the chief. We have to control the tongue. How does one control it? Simply chant Hare Krishna and taste Kṛṣṇa prasad. One cannot understand Kṛṣṇa by sensual perception or by speculation. It is not possible, for Kṛṣṇa is so great that he is not within our sensual range. But he can be understood by surrender. Kṛṣṇa therefore recommends this process, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Quote, "Give up all other processes of religion and simply surrender unto me." Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Our disease is that we are rebellious. We don't want to accept authority. Yet, although we say that we don't want authority, nature is so strong that it forces authority upon us. We are forced to accept the authority of nature by our senses. To say that we are independent is nonsense. It is our foolishness. We are under authority, but still, we say we don't want authority. This is called Maya, illusion. We do, however, have a certain independence. We can choose to be under the authority of our senses or the authority of Kṛṣṇa. The best and ultimate authority is Kṛṣṇa, for he is our eternal well-wisher, and he always speaks for our benefit. Since we have to accept some authority, why not accept his? Simply by hearing his glories from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and by chanting his names, Hare Krishna, we can swiftly perfect our lives. Haribol! Thus ends Kṛṣṇa, the Reservoir of Pleasure. Jai. So the link to this book is in the description, and we shall see you next time. Hare Krishna.